going to make this as informal as possible because the main thing is for us to listen to Tim and to get what knowledge and information that is going to impart to us. But before that, let me call upon our president, PFM president, Mr. Pancha, to come and say a few words, sort of a welcoming speech. Not too long, huh, Pancha? Setengah jam aja. Please.
Thank you, Dato' Maidin, our Vice President of PFM. PFM is also known as the Malaysian Film Producers Association. Encik Zarin Aris, kita punya hardworking CEO and Secretary of PFM. We also have Nancy Fu, our Treasurer. My dear PFM members, officials from Finas, Mafia Tada, and above all our special guest, Mr. Tim Edison, all the way from Prague, Czechoslovakia, even though he's Canadian, but now he's a Czech. Wishing all of you a very warm welcome and great afternoon. Dear members and friends, as all of you already know, till about 10 years ago, movies were made in 35mm celluloid film and projected in cinemas using conventional 35mm movie projections. Then along with digital movies came the DCP projectors, and this prompted the cinemas to replace their 35mm projectors in their old cinemas. To recoup the investments, the cinema operators imposed a virtual print fee, or VPF as we call it, which the producers or distributors were compelled to pay. An attempt by Finas to nullify this requirement went to the courts, but it failed. Fortunately, after a few years, when the cinema had recouped their investments in the DCP projectors, this fee was abolished, much to the relief of the producers. Now, the time has come to do away with DCPs. A new technology known as Artinii Pro has come into the market. PFM finds this to be an interesting proposal for our producers as one, the piracy element can be controlled, the cost of Artinii is only a small fraction of DCPs, downloading and uploading worldwide securely is feasible. Screenings can be done online and offline. Suburban towns can be exploited as the cost of setting up Artinii cinema is extremely viable and economical. The above is only a gist of what Artinii can do to revolutionize our cinema industry. You will be having a full and elaborate briefing on the benefits of Artinii Pro from Mr. Tim Edison, who has been flown in especially to brief all of you. I sincerely believe that Artinii Pro will be a boon to our industry and all of you in the movie business. Thank you and have a great, fruitful afternoon.
Oh, you want to introduce me? Okay. I'll stand here.
Thank you, Mr. Pancha. Tim can't wait to make his presentation. Let me do the preliminaries first. First of all, I think we want to acknowledge the sponsor for this event, which is the Registrar of Societies, Jabatan Pendaftaran Pertubuhan Negara. Let's give them a big hand. Okay, we first met with Tim at the ASEAN International Film Festival and Awards last month, the first week of last month in Kuching, Sarawak. And Tim made a presentation which I was very interested and think that it could be the next step for our industry. And so we managed to arrange for him to come today, and I hope that you will get the benefit of what he has to say. Please feel free to ask him questions during, or if not, at the end of the session. I know we have invited the producers, distributors, and as well as the exhibitors or the cinema operators. We hope there are some of you here. If not, we'll make another arrangement for Tim to meet with the cinema operators. So feel free to ask questions along the way. Tim has 20 over years in the business. He's a Canadian, but has been residing in Prague, Czech, for how long?
30 years.
For 30 years.
Yeah, long time.
You must have come in when you were 10 years old, didn't you? Okay, so he has a lot of experience. Please feel free to ask him any question. Okay, over to you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, thanks so much for coming to the event, and I appreciate all the sponsors for making it possible. And like Mike was saying, we want to keep this informal. So if you have any questions while I'm yammering on, please feel free just to pipe up. And at the end, I have we've done this presentation recently. It's actually similar to the one I gave in Kuching, but also recently we did something similar to introduce the technology in India. And I asked my technical guys back in Prague. I said, whatever the questions were in India, they're likely to be the same. So at the end of the presentation, I have all the questions that the producers and distributors and cinema owners in India had about the presentation. So I can go through those as well, because they're likely going to be the same. Okay, so we can go to slide 1, boys in the booth. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so driving business growth and innovation. Basically, the idea behind Artinii is that it originally provided a way for the owner of Artinii, who originally established it, to find films and get the rights holders to get paid for those films. So legally, and not Blu-ray and all of this, just to get the films so that he could make a film festival. He wanted to do a film festival about esoterica stuff, you know, like palm reading and all of this. And he was having a difficult time finding the films, getting them delivered in time, and making sure that everybody got paid and they weren't pirated copies. So Artinii is basically began like that, and soon we discovered that it's much, much cheaper and faster to do it, and if we add encryption, then it will be safer as well. So this was the goal. And the fact is that the DCP technology, when it started in 2000, I believe it was a creation of Warner Brothers and Disney and all the big studios, and it works, but it costs money. I think in Europe it costs something like 500 euros, maybe here as well, I don't know, just to make the copy, and then to send it as well takes time and money. You've got to pay FedEx or whoever it is to deliver the film. So this way, with Artinii, it's simply one click on the mouse, and you can send and receive films. And also, you know, for cinemas, this DCP technology is expensive. The cameras are expensive. With Artinii, there's no technology. All you need is basically a laptop, and it plugs into any camera. So there's no changing in technology. It's not like cinema owners are going to require them to buy again new technology. No, you don't even have to upgrade your. It runs on DCP projectors, which you can still use, but any projector can be used. So it's really kind of revolutionary in a sense. I've got a note here that says, say goodbye to Blu-ray, MP4s, and piracy. And even Blu-rays and MP4s and thumb drives are more expensive to send than Artinii. Okay, next slide, please. So the main thing is that Artinii is just a delivery system. We're not interested in collecting fees on one end or on the other. So there's no revenue sharing going on with Artinii. It's simply like a telephone line where the producer or distributor holds one end of the phone, makes a call to the cinema, who holds the other end, and says hello through and transfers the data through the telephone line. So we're just a instant delivery service. Boop, 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 boop. Next slide. Yeah, I should mention, it says here about, the last slide said it's 10% of the cost of DCP. We are working out the pricing now for Malaysia. It will definitely be, it may not be 10%, but we'll see what the cost is. Every country is different. In India, for example, they did some check and it was something like 10% of the cost. So it's a vast improvement. Yeah, so then the cinema player is sort of the main, it's what plays the, obviously good name, it's what plays the film. But it's so much more stuff involved in that. It also decrypts the film. And because when you use Artinii, it takes your film in whatever format, it encrypts it, and adds more things, which I'll get into, and then it's decrypted by the player. You're going to hear this word a lot during this presentation, and the word is free. The cinema player is free. Yeah, so, and by the way, uploading your film is free. And storing it on Google Private Cloud is free. We don't take any revenue share. That's between producers and cinemas. The cinemas decide you can make whatever deals you like. That's nothing to do with us. We don't care what this is. And then the three products are, in a sense, there's kind of two products. So the content delivery, which I spoke about already, and then the second product is either white label or film festival. Like I said, the whole thing started with film festivals, but the good thing is there's also a white label version. Let's go to next slide, please. So the content delivery, yeah. Let me just change my slide. We have different slides in the booth than I have here, so that's okay. Yeah, this is the first of the products. And you can see that I've listed here some of the benefits. There's many, but the administration process of delivery is simple. When you've uploaded the film to Artinii and you want to send it somewhere, we first encrypt it, again, for free, and we add a special, like a blockchain number, in fact a blockchain number that's invisible, and it sends when the cinema buys it, they buy a clone of the film, so they don't buy what you've uploaded. We reprocess it and send it as a screening license. So every cinema gets a different version and has a different blockchain number, so you can see who got which version of the film. And this is important also for piracy. And I'll talk more about that later, but you can set the number of approved shows, and yeah, there's a dashboard that shows the overview of the number of licenses sent and the number of screenings that took place. The cinema only has to register, and the producer has to register. Again, the registration process is free. You just say, as a producer, who you are. You put in if you like, you can put in your bank account number, not because we take, but so that you can get paid from, for example, the cinemas if you make a deal. And they put in their bank number and they say where they're located as well, so that every cinema, we know who has which clone of which block number, who has it and where it is, and that's all available on a dashboard. It's all controlled only by, so we don't look at it at Artinii, but it's owned by you guys, and yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible for the transfer of film and maintain the rights and transfer of money as well. So Yeah, let's go on to the next slide, please. By the way, there's 29 slides, but 15 of them are just pictures, really quick. Bing, 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 bing. So, anyway, white label. So the white label is the second product. It's basically an e-shop. So there's an interesting story of. Do you guys know Michael Caine, the actor? Michael Caine. He's old. Anyway, Michael Caine lived with this guy in London in the 1960s when he was poor, before he was a proper, famous movie star. And he lived with a guy named Vidal Sassoon. Do you know who that is? Vidal Sassoon. Okay. So Michael Caine and Vidal lived in a excuse my language, lived in a crappy sort of flat in London. And they were both poor, both trying to make it. And Vidal was a hair cutter. And Michael said, hey, you know what would be good? You should try to make money while you're sleeping. And Vidal's like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you should sell shampoos and conditioners and all this stuff for your hair with your name on it. He's like, oh, that's a good idea. And okay, the guy became a millionaire thanks to this idea. So this white label version is like an e-shop where producers or rights or distributors who own the films, you can sell your films anywhere in the world while you're asleep. Because that's why putting in the bank account. You can preset the cost of your film, and you set the price. We don't care what price it is, but say, for example, if it's a public screening and it's in Europe, you set the price for 100 euros. And so you got a list of, say, 100 films or 10 films, and it says 100 euros. The cinema in Europe says, yeah, I want to buy that. Click. They click on it, and they also have to register with Artinii, so you know their bank account, their location, and they can buy the film off of you while you're sleeping. And it's all on the dashboard. So you could potentially sell your films everywhere in the world if you preset the price. So that's the white label. It's like an e-shop. That's just one way that Artinii can work. So making money while you sleep, I think everybody likes that idea. And this again came from the film festival version, because in the film festival version it's the same thing. It's a list of the films and all in order. And we thought, okay, well, why not monetize that? Why can't producers make money when they list their films on their own website? So, for example, if it was your website, it would be whatever Malaysian producer X backslash artinii.my. And it would be your website already that possibly exists. We would just attach our technology to the back end of it, so that all your films are 100% secured through the encryption process. Yeah, next slide, please. So here's some interesting numbers. You can read them yourselves while I'm speaking, but it's a bit of a revolution. So we only went worldwide 2 years ago, and in 2 years we're already in, I think it's 65 countries now. This slide is a couple weeks old. But 65 countries. We're huge in, it's funny, one of the first places we started was Nigeria, where everybody knows the piracy and corruption level in Nigeria is fairly high. But for film industry, not anymore. Because the guy who owns the most cinemas in Africa, his name is Moses Baptope in Nigeria. You may have heard of him. He owns Film One, it's called, in Nigeria. Big dude. He owns all the cinemas in Africa, pretty much. He has DCP cinemas and multiplexes, and I think he's got 100 screens, and all of them run, sometimes they run DCP, but most of the time they run Artinii. So he gets all his films through Artinii. He tells the producers, hey, you want to send me a film? Send it through Artinii, because that way it's safe. And it costs him less money as well. And it costs the producer less money. So, yeah, they've had, last year he had over 25,000 shows in his cinemas, and he basically, it's basically Nollywood. You all know Bollywood and Nollywood probably. So yeah, and he shows the content on his DCP projectors. They just plug it in through HDMI cable, which I don't have, but one of these things. And then there's a guy in India named Yusuf, who's got a company called Yanta, and Yusuf is on the board of Bollywood. He also has seen the potential of Artinii and spoke on our behalf at Cannes Film Festival a couple of months ago. And during that speech, I was surprised. I was sitting in the audience, and he said, "I'm going to use Artinii to open 100,000 cinemas in India in the next 5 years." Everybody's like, "What?" And he plans to open the first 1,000 in the next 6 months. And it's for that reason, like to run it in places not in the main cities, but like in the suburban places. So. And again, just to make it cheaper. It's not a matter of competing with the main cinemas. It's a matter of adding usually to the current cinema owners can expand hugely and really fast for limited amount of money. Yeah, I guess we can go to the next. Is there anything I can talk about here? No, that's about it. Oh yeah, maximum 20 minutes to process an order from end user. So somebody wants to buy, calls you on the phone, for example, and they don't know about Artinii, and maybe you don't, and you've heard about it. So to upload your film, 10, 20 minutes. To download it, usually 5 minutes, and it downloads onto the cinema player, which I think is on the next slide. And the cinema player then stores it, and you don't need internet, you don't need Wi-Fi to run it, because it downloads it to the player stores it. So you can have 10 films on the player maybe, or 20, and you download them from a good internet connection, and then you can take them to, I don't know, a beachfront or a pop-up cinema or wherever it is in the woods somewhere in Africa, and without internet you can play the film. So yeah, next slide please. Yeah, this is basically the dashboard that I mentioned earlier on that shows how many films were sent and where they were sent and how much money you made, and when you're owning a white label, or for cinemas cinemas don't necessarily need this type of a dashboard. There's a different thing that I'll talk about with that. But for the producers, basically you have your film, you upload it, it gets processed, which means it gets encrypted, a blockchain number is added to it, invisible watermark, so it doesn't, you can't see it on the screen, and we also have inaudible watermark. Does that make sense? Inaudible, yeah, and that's not invisible. It's yeah, inaudible. So if someone tries to record the film, they hear noise, just noise. If someone tries to, that is the audio, just it's scrambled noise. And if someone tries to record your film using like screen grab technology, as soon as Artinii cinema player, again free, as soon as the cinema player, it recognizes, aha, somebody's using a screen grab technology, and the player itself shuts down, and the whole film, the screen just goes black. So it's impossible. We have, in the last 2 years since going public, we've had zero leakage. Absolutely, not even in Nigeria. Zero leakage of any films in 2 years, which is pretty cool. I wasn't going to mention this, but it's so new. But what was it, 2 days ago, I was talking to the owner, and he's like, yeah, how's it going over there? And I'm staying in Bali now, but I just flew in. And he goes, I said, yeah, everything's going well. I said, what's going on in Prague? And he said, funny thing happened yesterday. The CIA called us, because the CIA in America apparently has some films. I don't know what's on them, but they also want their films protected for no one to see them. By the way, I'm Canadian, so I'm no big fan of CIA. So, anyway, Yeah, and by the way, this technology is already being used in Canada, and the U.S., and England, and all over Europe. And we spent 4 years and $10 million to get the encryption process right. So that's kind of like, that's where we spent all our money, and that's why we now just charge the tiny amount for the delivery. Next slide, please. This microphone's really good. Okay, content protection standards is the next slide. Guys in the booth, there we go. So yeah, I mentioned invisible watermarks, and we use an independent blockchain which helps identify and store the data, that is when it was played and exactly where it was played and the exact second, the moment it was screened. It's all part of the dashboard that can be used, and it's why there's no leakage as well, because we have the evidence now, so people can't really take it. Yep, this I mentioned already. Okay, we can go on to the next. Oh yeah, Fox, Disney, and Sony. So that's interesting as well. There's a company in London that does kind of like after first year of run, Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers allowed this company called Film As long as you, I mean, for this you can send it, but for the white label part, you can also do geolocation. So, for example, if you've sold the rights to your film to Malaysia and Indonesia, but you haven't sold it to, let's say, Canada, and somebody from Canada sees your film and they want to buy it, they can. Somebody from Indonesia wants to buy the film. No, I've already sold the rights to this other cinema, so they won't be able to even download it. So it maintains like the current ecosystem that you already have. So all the deals that you already have with the cinemas, those stay in place. And in fact, they protect you because, you know, you're asked, which countries have you sold the rights in? Those ones we're going to block. You know, you can block them. You decide which ones to block, and you block all the geolocation. So pretty cool. Next slide, please. So now we're on slide 12, and we're going to get into a little bit about watermarking. And this slide's going to go quick because they're basically just pictures. But yeah, basically, as I mentioned, it's probably the best security in the world. Artinii uses official technologies, prevention against screen recording, which I mentioned, limited number of playbacks based on time and license settings and geolocation, and transparent reporting of all playback details. That's key, so you know who's played your film and where they played it. The video and audio watermarking. So this was a lot of time again and money spent to implement these. Audio watermarking, AWT5 watermarking is inaudible and robust. Like our video watermarking technique, it embeds the VW data directly. It's a lot of technical stuff, but it basically it works. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, question.
All these three technology are quite common already.
Sorry?
All the three storage features
Yeah.
are quite common.
Yeah.
The biggest concern for copyright is actually using another camera to capture through the screen.
Yeah. So we'll get to that as well. But there's two ways to pirate a film. The most common one, at least in Europe so far, most common one is computer to computer. So we also have this. I was saying that Artinii is used to deliver to films, but it's also you can do TVOD. So you can deliver it to a person's laptop. And when you deliver it to a person's laptop, that's when the piracy guys kick in, because they can take a perfect screen grab, perfect audio, and then they can sell it, to lots of places. With the video, like if you're recording a film inside a cinema with your camera, your mobile camera, you can still record it, but it's going to be kind of crappy version of it. With this, we have also technology, and that is the watermarking, the invisible watermark. So as soon as you find that someone has copied your film, and you see a copy of it, that's usually the only way you'll find it. Oh, there's a copy of my film. You send it to Artinii, and within 24 hours, we can tell you exactly what time it was copied and which screening license was copied, because it's watermarked. So we have all this data, you get it instant, like within 24 hours. So all this forensic data is available, and that's why I suppose that we've got zero leakage, because the piracy guys are going, they're aware of it as well. They're like, oh shit, I can't, excuse my language. They're not going to copy something where they know that, so I'm in this cinema on this day, at this time, I'm one of 100 people in there, but still, if I've done it a few times, they're going to say, that's that guy. He's in this cinema. So we can check that out as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so there's 4 steps in protection. Before the transfer, that's the watermarks. And we also use wide-vine DRM enhanced by our own content protection features to secure safe delivery. Number 2, the film can only be screened using that Artinii cinema player, that free one again, which also has the advantages I mentioned earlier. The screening details are stored on Litecoin blockchain for maximum transparency. Again, the blockchain is kind of cool. It sounds like weird, but blockchain is just it's a clone of your film, so it's got its own individual blockchain number, and that's why we can see if somebody sort of like copied, we know exactly which copy. 3, encryption, and it's decrypted by the player on the fly. And then, as I mentioned before, if there's an attempted screen grab, it automatically shuts down the software, so the screen is black. Somebody was asking me if I was going to show an example of how it works, but if I show it, it would just be on the slide, here's the film, here's me trying to use software to pirate it, and as soon as I click the button, the screen goes black, so there's no point really showing it in a demonstration. Okay, next slide, please. These are the fast slides, slides 15 through 20. This is basically the watermarking techniques. It's, again, somewhat technical. This slide I'll make available. In fact, the guys will make available for anybody if they're interested in seeing afterwards. But what it does is we use mathematical transformation of decomposing the original image and basically using pixels to transform it, and you in most cases it's completely imperceptible. And if we go next slide, we talk about attack resistance here and the type of encryption and watermarking that we use. Again, the key takeaway here is like the image isn't somehow altered. So the image that you've shot on your camera, or the director shot, is the image that you get on after it's been edited, is the image you get on the screen. Next slide, please. Yeah, and if somebody tries to record the film using like a blurring image, or resizing, or cropping, or flipping the image, which you've probably seen on YouTube, if you've seen recordings of, for example, Formula 1 races, where you want to see it again, and it's not official, it's like a cropped version. So even that, our watermark, our technology makes this impossible. So no one can sort of like crop it, blur it, or whatever, in order to get around the encryption process. Impossible. And next slide, please. Next slide. Original, next. 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 These are the type of ways that they usually get around, but with ours they can't. So the watermark picture, as you see in this is the watermark picture. This will not, so blurring or any altercation will not affect the basically QR code watermark. Next slide. Next slide. On the left is the original, on the right is the proper watermark. Next. 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 Okay, and those slides, in fact, those last few slides I got from my technical guide 2 days ago. I said, send me the things that you sent to the CIA. And so that's what they sent to the CIA. I'm not sure why I'm showing you, but just so you know, that's what they saw, and somehow they were impressed. Next slide, please. And, yeah. Next slide. Yeah, that's again back to the cinema player. I think we mentioned most about this, but I didn't talk about the VOD solution. So it works also on computers. So, for example, if you're selling your film you want to sell it just to a person, individual person, you can do that as well. We take a tiny delivery fee for that. Again, we haven't adjusted the prices yet for Malaysian market. In fact, I think the way we've looked at setting pricing worldwide is we compared the price of I think it was a Big Mac in Prague compared to the cost of a Big Mac everywhere else, or some McDonald's burger or something everywhere else, or KFC, I forget what the guys, how they did it. But they made it so that it's scalable, so that but we're still working on the Malaysian pricing screen. But in Europe, for example, the cost of sending 10 screening licenses to a cinema is $20. In other words, $2 per screening license. And the cost of TVOD is $2 per screening license, and I know Apple TV charges about $3, so we're less expensive than Apple, at least for Europe, and we're going to adjust the prices to make sure that it's, you know, super competitive in Malaysia. And the goal is, obviously the goal here, and the goal for Artinii originally was to get more film to more people at a lower price, if possible. So, next slide, please. Yeah, case studies. Okay, next slide. So, Abramorama is run by some big dude in the States, some producer who used to be a professor at New York Film School, two guys from New York Film School. They're using, they've got a website called abramorama.com where they're selling films. They're mostly films dealing with music, and that's what he's interested in. And he sells all his films through Artinii as well. Bonton Films, Czech Republic. Film 1 is Nigeria. Check that film is like a film festival around the world. It's sponsored by the Czech embassy, so I can imagine it could be similar for Malaysia. The Malaysian diaspora, so the embassies and community centers around the world could run something similar. Makes it super easy to put on film festivals and get content out to Malaysian expats around the world. Yeah, and then we presented at all of these places, including IFA last month, and Cannes. At Cannes, the guy who used to be the head of Amazon Prime, a guy named Ted Hope, who's like a big deal in the States in the film industry, he was talking on stage and he said, this Artinii technology is like the beginning of punk rock. When there was like disco and all kinds of music, and then Artinii came along, this is like punk rock, where this audience is the first audience to see how you can use, because again, it's brand new, so there's ways potentially that we haven't even thought of that you can use Artinii to get films out to more people. Anyway, okay, and next, I think that could be the end. Yeah, so these are the Film Bank Media I mentioned. Those are the digital guys in London who sort of have the rights to the big companies to sell films digitally, and they're using Artinii. Film 1 is, again, Nigeria. Capital Motion Picture is the one with the bridge there next to Abramorama. They're in Canada, and I spoke to the guy who owns that company. He's super interested that I'm here today because he wants Malaysian content on his site. Same with a bunch of the other people that I've met over the last year. They are distributors, and Capital Motion Picture, by the way, has his own streaming service called Just Watch Me TV. He's in contact with the Canadian National Film Board, which is interested as well, and but Capital Motion Picture is interested in, if possible, getting the Malaysian Film Board catalogs. So we can, there's all kinds of like potential to collaborate. Abramorama I mentioned, and some Czech ones that, and a German one I think. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, Cinema Anywhere is one of our first eShop customers. You can actually go there today and first go to Artinii Pro and upload all your films and put them on Cinema Anywhere, and they will be a platform for your films to be shown pretty much anywhere. they charge, I know that they charge, they're not us, but they charge 40% of the price. So this again is that white label, like an e-shop. So Cinema Anywhere, because they're promoting your film, they take 40% and 60% stays with the distributor or producer. That's one way to do it. Next slide, please. And as far as Canada, the Canadian company, Capital Motion Picture and Abramarama, I don't know what they charge. Again, it's between the producer or distributor and the cinemas. What the deal is? We're not interested really in the price that goes between yourselves. Next slide, please. Yeah, here's the FAQ. Last slide. This is the last slide. So. How large is the file, Tim? Well, it's about 5 gigabytes. And what is the quality of the film that you send? Well, it's 2K Full HD, which is the same as like something like 90% of the cinemas on the planet. And we can also do 4K. It's a little bit more expensive. I don't really know the price, but it's a tiny bit more expensive. But anyway, 90% of film are sent in 2K Full HD. I may be wrong about that, but I think there's some cinema guys here. Yeah. Okay. And which devices does the player work on? So, Windows, any Windows computer. As long as you've got Microsoft Windows 10, you're golden. We also do Mac, but Mac's not it doesn't work as well necessarily. It's possible, but we just recommend Windows version 10 or higher. Version 10 is pretty old anyway. Which formats does Artinii support film upload? Yeah, so 300 gigabytes per film is the limitation. Resolution, again, Full HD, 2K, 4K. What can I how do I upload? What files do I use to upload to Artinii? Any file except for DCP. Absolutely any file. Our software doesn't recognize DCP. It can't somehow ingest it. But any other file, and those are all cheap, right? So nobody has to make a DCP copy anymore. Audio, it's 5.1 sound. Again, there's some technical things that I'm not really aware of, but some of you in the audience will know. But at 5.1 sound, again, is like 90% of, at least 90% of all cinemas. And yeah, each language needs to have its own audio stream. I think that's obvious. And subtitles, again, they can be uploaded during the process of uploading the film, or they can be added afterwards to the player by who's ever screening, who's ever running the projector. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you for your attention. Yeah, thank you, if you want to clap. It's 20 minutes to 4. Is that okay? Everybody has time. If there's any questions, if not, then you can ask me afterwards, or Mike, maybe.
Any questions, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still curious about the subtitles. I know you say that you put up, you can send a different file, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
subtitle. Okay, assumingly my film is in the native language, and I'm sending to,
Yeah.
so they will do it for us, or how?
Yeah. Maybe get the questions
Okay.
I guess technically, when you said we're sending up SRT upload together with the film, are you saying that the film, like I also saw the audio files, are we sending separately M&E, separately SRT, and then the film itself naked?
Usually the uploader sends the audio and the video together, as you know, everywhere. But as far as the SRT file, so often what you will do is send the SRT that you would normally send. So I don't know, English plus local language, or not. You don't have to. But the player who's ever playing, that depends on your deal with the person who's there, like who's buying the film. So, but what you can do is you can send them the film in advance, and if your SRT file isn't ready in Italian, maybe you takes them some time to make one, or you have a deal with them to make it, and they can then add the SRT file afterwards.
So they,
So either way, it can be sent together with the film, or they can then find the SRT file maybe themselves. They have people doing it, so then they can add it afterwards.
so they can embed it for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In a sense, it's embedded in the player, so and it runs concurrently with the player. Yep.
Question.
Yeah.
There is a case that we send a complete film, which our subtitles are there, and then the Russian wanted to do their own subtitle. Therefore, they got our SRT translated, and then because there's no more space, it's already embedded in the film. Then it goes on top, because that's the only space that can put it in. So indirectly, if you're saying with Artinii, we send a blank film without subtitles, and we provide the SRT, therefore they can translate and then position it on the lower half. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah.
They embed it for us.
They embed it for you. Yeah. And they can put in 2 languages, 2 subtitles, as long as there's always space. So.
Okay, I have a few more questions.
Yep. Continue.
Technically, these are case study. We've got an embassy in Malaysia screening in, say, US. Currently, what we do is we go via Google Drive or via Vimeo, and then they download and use. With Artinii, if they have an Artinii player, therefore we can assign, and they can only play one screening, and after that it shuts down. Are you saying that?
Kind of, but it's a little bit different because you can send you can send them as many licenses as you want. You can send them 100 licenses, but if it's an embassy, it's probably 10 is enough, right? And in the U.S. or in Europe, we charge $20 for those 10 licenses, $2 per license. But you can charge them nothing if you want. It's just that we charge the $2 to cover our costs for the storing on the Google Cloud and stuff. But yeah, did I answer the question?
No.
No.
The question would be, on the other side, whoever is going to screen the film, they need your player.
Yes. Yeah.
So they need to download.
Right. So I was gonna say that. Yeah. So when you send the link, like the link itself, it arrives in their email, for example. And they get this link. They don't know what it is, but they trust you. They click on it, and they said, you've received a file from this person, and it's the movie. And click here. It will download the player, and it downloads it in like 10 seconds or whatever. So it's like an automatic process. So it's not like they have to, now I have to go somewhere to download this player and use it. No. To watch this film, click here. Click, and it's like you're downloading the Artinii player. And then it's all super simple, like so. So with Vimeo, they already know Vimeo exists, and so they just press play. With Artinii, they don't know Artinii exists. They don't have it, for example. So it just downloads automatically to the computer, but it's a really tiny file. It can be stored on mobile phones. It's like super small. It's not like they need extra space or anything.
So basically, okay, you send a link, and then they click download everything, and then you just plug and play. Is what you're saying?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Plug and play, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess for now, the cinema needs to approve this before our proper movie to release. However, if we want private screenings like what we used to have a lot, that means I do not have to physically go to, say, Northern State or whatever. I can just give them the link, click, and then they download and say one screening, and I just give license for one.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So it's all via HDMI,
Yeah.
any projector output.
So HDMI to any laptop that's got the minimum of Windows 10, and it goes with any projector, absolutely any projector in the world. Doesn't have to be a DCP projector. It can be absolutely any projector that takes an HDMI cable can play the film. So it makes it really super easy for somebody in the northern state who's got a tiny, community center, and you send them the file. Just plug in any projector into your laptop, and you'll get audio, video. And they can add, of course, speakers as well. Then, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anybody else?
How soon can you revise
You can start uploading today.
your dashboard to bring it like new screen or whatever? So that
How
you
soon can you?
How soon can you devise the dashboard so that you can function to make us each of us like an OTT operator? You know, you're almost close to like Uscreen already, or white label.
Oh, the white label
Yeah,
version.
the white
How
label.
long does it take to do a
No,
white
how
label?
soon you your site can start having proper pricing?
Oh, so on ours we don't have a site. So we
Yeah,
we-
correct.
yeah.
We use
But
the
say
Artinii
you have a
player.
site, you have a
We have a
website.
site.
Yeah, how
We
soon?
use
I get you.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
how?
if,
Because now for $2 a screening is if you are running an OTT platform, it's too expensive for your customer.
yeah,
You know, for your TVOD.
sure.
Can
Yeah,
you
we
come
can
to-
make it. We can make it cheaper. We have to look into the local pricing. In Europe, it's $2. And that works well because the only competition that we have is
Uscreen is only charging something like $80 a month.
right,
unlimited.
for a subscription. So we don't have a subscription model yet. We're thinking about it, but we don't have a subscription model. It's a possibility. It's something that we're working on. So our team in Prague is about, I think, 50 people or 30 people, basically. And again, this is really brand new stuff. So we haven't done a subscription model, but we've been thinking about it with the Canadians as well. They're like, oh, what about a yeah, we can do it. We can do it. Like the technology is super simple. Oh, I wanted to mention one other thing also. In Malaysia, I know that when a cinema gets a film, they have like a central control booth or whatever, and that scheduling system, like this screen gets this film at this time, this screen gets that film at that time. So that also we can interface like what's it called, like an API that will allow sort of interface. And again, with streaming technology, it's like really. Our guys are brilliant. Like those guys are way smarter than I am. But they know how to like, and the technology is super simple. The only difficult part was the encryption technology. That 4 years of, but otherwise the machine itself is super simple to use and adapt. For example, for such a solution.
And encryption technology, I think presently the world is quite comfortable using DRW, you know. With DRW,
That's what we have.
You already have.
Yeah, we have that.
Most of the devices, once you put in DRW, they already cannot re-download the file already.
Yeah, that's what we have as well. But we have
already,
added.
but you added one. I know you got added
Yeah, on
one.
top of that. Yeah. So the blockchain thing is cool, and also the instant dashboard is also really good because everybody can see like, oh, where was my film? Who ordered? How much money did I make last night while I was sleeping, for
No,
example?
because your hidden watermark. That's why I asked you a question. What happens if someone use a camera to capture on screen? You see?
Yeah.
So with your hidden watermark, I'll be able to analyze back
Yes.
which location.
Yes, exactly. The hidden watermark allows you to analyze when you see the film. Someone's stolen your film. You've seen it on YouTube or somewhere. And you're like, oh, that's my film. I didn't sell it to this guy.
No, he did not use screen. He did not use screen grabbing. He used another camera.
Yeah. Even that's what I'm saying. Yeah, even he just screen grabbing. Like, even with his phone, he's saying like, so what if somebody stole my film from a theater? Yeah. Then they re-showed it. They put it on YouTube, for example. Send it to Artinii, like email us or email me or something. I'll give it to my technical guys. They can see the watermark even through that. Yeah, blurred, cropped, anything. They can see still the watermark. Our tech guys somehow, I don't know exactly how they did it, but they are able to see the watermark even if it's blurred, cropped, and they can then tell you within 24 hours it was from when you sold it to this guy. He made a copy of it. Or someone, maybe his wife or his son, most likely his son. His son probably made a watermark. Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you?
Right behind.
All right. Hi.
Editing. Maybe you could just give us a scenario about the payment solution. Are you using traditional money or maybe Bitcoin?
Yeah, no, we're using traditional money. So originally we had some payment gateway, they're called. It was local Czech, and then I found these guys in Canada who wanted to start using the white label. This is capitalmotionpictures.com/Artinii. They had so we translated the player, some of the player, into French for the French Canadians, and we can actually do the same we can do it in Malaysian as well, Indonesian, Malaysian, if necessary. But it's so simple. It's like there's a play button. But the pricing, yeah, the payment gateway we switched when we switched to Canada, and we changed it to one that's used in India and Canada. That's Stripe. If you know Stripe, STRIPE, Stripe payment gateway, and it's used everywhere, I guess, in the world. We can adjust it. It took us, I think, a week to change payment gateways. We can add payment gateways as well if you've got a preferred one. I mean, it would take us probably 2 weeks. But Stripe, I think, is trusted and used everywhere. So it costs us money more than the one we were using before, but it's international. So we make less money. Artinii makes less money. You make however much you make. But did I mention the geo blocking and did I mention like the time as well? Like, so if you've got a film and it's you want to sell it on, like, for example, on this e-market, you can put up the JPEG and all the information about it and make it available to sell wherever you don't geo-block it, but you can also make it available for sale for a certain time. So say you've got a deal with the cinemas in Malaysia that in the first 2 weeks, so from August 1st to August 15th, it's like premiere and I can't sell it anywhere. So you can put it up already on your website saying this film is available, and it's not only geo-blocked but time blocked from August 16th. So they can then play it from the whatever day to. And again, that's up to you. We don't control it. We don't control the pricing. We don't control the geo-blocking. So, yeah.
Thank you. I just want to know the timeline, actually, in Malaysia, when you going to start all this, and also you were telling about the pricing, right? So, in like certain countries, just now you mentioned, we might take 10% or something like that, right? So, have you decided what are the fees exactly, or are you going for a fees or percentage for Malaysia and the timeline?
Yeah. So. Well, we take 0%. Like Artinii takes no revenue share at all, no percentage at all. But that 10% was just like, what does it compare to DCP currently in India? So, and in Malaysia, we're working on it now, working on the pricing. But I know that there's there's different ways of distributing films in different countries. And in Malaysia, there's maybe one DCP made, and it's shared out to, I don't know, 100 screenings and so then the price for that, we have to look at, what is the price of that per screening? Turns out it's like, 50 cents, but it's not as secure. So could we get away with 50? Probably not. It would have to be something less, but we haven't figured it out exactly. But we're definitely I'm working together with these guys who helped.
That's why I say that.
And all of you as well, to get feedback on how can we price this that it's interesting. It's already interesting for producers because of the encryption and lack of piracy. But how can we make it more interesting in terms of how low can we put the price? And for us, it's not a matter of making tons and tons of money. It's just like a tiny piece for each little thing. And we want the producers and the cinema owners and the distributors to think of Artinii as nothing, like it's less than a postage stamp anyway. So that's the way we're hopefully going towards. And again, the goal is that it's faster, gets more places, not about making so much money, So that's the key.
Okay.
But let's see, timeline. Maybe you've got an idea of timeline now. Okay, so timeline is. We'll get prices done within a month. let's say something like that, month or two.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. That has been very informative. I think everyone agree with that. We'll be having tea after this, so you are free to connect with Tim directly and ask questions directly. Yeah, Richard, last one.
Come give me a mic.
Hello, Mike, Dato' Mike. Since you invited me here already, so it's my duty to speak up lah. Okay. I see this one works very well to our, how to say, broadcaster, people like Finas, and things like that. Lately, they asked us to send in our movies for them to preview through Google Drive and things like that, which is completely unsecured. But because they are our funders, we have to listen to them, lor. But are you very sure every staff in Finas all also very, very reliable that theft cannot happen? I don't know. I cannot blame anybody in Finas. But you know, lately my figures in the cinema were leaked out, you see. So I suffered tremendous embarrassment. So what happened if other producers who innocently send a link of their completed movie to Finas for their preview, or to RTM for their preview, to Media Prima for their preview, and this thing got leaked out? So I guess PFM as my association can bring this out to these people lah. Ask them to embrace security right from today. Thank you, Mr. Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. So you are in support of this program. Okay, just before we end, can we call Mr. Pancha to give a souvenir to Mr. Tim?